Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This week I'm joined by Andrew Douglas, surfer out of Cornwall. Andy, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm a 40-year-old big wave surfer from St Agnes in Cornwall.
Cool. And how long have you been surfing?
I started surfing when I was probably about 3 or 4. I grew up in Essex, fell in love with the ocean on school holidays, and kind of when I was about 18, I knew exactly what I needed in life, and that was to obviously relocate to the ocean. So I've been surfing since I was really young, but I've obviously been living in Cornwall since I was about 18.
Amazing. Have you always been in St Agnes, or have you moved around Cornwall a bit?
I was in Plymouth for a couple of years, and then certainly the rest of it's kind of predominantly been in St Agnes.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice neck of the woods. What was it sort of? So, yeah, was it a natural progression from sort of riding regular waves to sort of breaking into the big wave scene?
For me, a kind of big part of going from kind of just smaller waves to kind of certainly kind of in regards to like Nazare, it was kind of definitely like a journey that for me kind of involved like traveling around the world lots really to surf different kind of waves. I've done like a couple of like winter trips to MadiRaa, which has some obviously powerful kind of big waves. I've spent a lot of time in like Indonesia, and obviously the kind of final frontier, I guess, for me was Nazare, which I've kind of been focusing my efforts in regards to kind of surfing and training certainly for the past couple of years.
Nice. When was your first trip to Nazare?
So 3 winters ago, I had like an 8.0 gun that I took up to Nazare for a swell. I was down in the Algarve at the time anyway, just kind of surfing and working remotely, and I wanted to kind of go up and give it a go. And the swell forecast was 8 foot 14 seconds, and I went up to Nazare with my 8.0 and was just amazed at how big the waves were for that size of swell. And I went and paddled it and had a couple of good waves. And I thought, you know what, next year I'm going to go back and obviously kind of give it a bit of a crack. And the year after, which was obviously not this year gone, the year before, was when I kind of did my first kind of toe-in at Nazare. So yeah, it was a couple of years ago, but paddled it, and then obviously started kind of toe-in 2 years ago.
Amazing. Yeah, it's got quite a bit of hype, hasn't it, the last few years? It's really sort of exploded onto the scene. Obviously, like Garrett and the guys sort of come across it through a friend of his or a contact, and then the last, I don't know what, 8-10 years, it's really sort of just become quite an infamous spot. So I've not had the fortune of being up there. I spent a lot of time on the Algarve, but I'm by no means big wave surfer. I've had a couple of bigger days, probably sort of double overhead, and that'll probably do me, I think. I'm not wired the same. So tell us a little bit about your training. Obviously, surfers need a decent level of fitness anyway. You never know what the ocean is going to throw at you. So whether that's just a long paddle out, or you've got to compete with about 100 other people on a Saturday morning at Fistral, probably calm day. What's it like going from keeping fit for surfing regular waves to then taking it up a notch to surfing something with a bit more consequence?
I think that when you start kind of talking about waves that are, above 20 foot, um, then you kind of have to start putting some obviously serious kind of effort into your training. Um, I kind of, when I did my first big toe day a couple of years ago, I was fairly fit anyway because I've always surfed, you know, super regularly. And I kind of used to do a bit of boxing and stuff when I was younger. So I've always been used to like running and being in the gym, and I've always had like a base fitness. But a couple of years ago when I did tow the first time, I was paying a company down there to kind of tow me in. You kind of pay for like a 2 hour block, and I was very aware of how much it was costing me for that short window to be towed. So I was just kind of like one wave after another, and I ended up having to kind of wear somewhere between a I don't know 30 to 40 foot wave maybe on the head. And I was pretty out of breath when the wave hit me, and obviously had quite a rough time dealing with the wipeout. I come up and got about 3 or 4 breaths before another wave took me, and so by the time I was actually kind of out and back on the rescue ski again, like it had taken the wind out of me quite a bit. So it was really, really glad that it happened, because it kind of was a big kind of like learning curve for me. I was like, okay, well, there's one thing just having a base fitness, but like if you plan on obviously doing this more regularly and certainly scaling the conditions up, into bigger realms, then you're going to have to kind of break down your training into different parts and then obviously kind of work on them. So for me, I kind of thought that the one thing that kind of got me quite tired and fatigued out there was when you're on a tow rope, the muscle groups are very different to paddling. So it's kind of all on your forearms and your back and your neck by like holding onto the rope. So for me, I kind of try and be on the rope as much as I can when I'm back at home. Even during the summer, if it's flat, I'll quite happily go out on the jet ski and just be trawled up and down, just to kind of have that kind of conditioning in the muscle groups that you need to obviously be towed in. So that's one aspect. I think you can never be fit enough. So yeah, I do as much running as I can. I'm a big guy. I'm a 16 and a bit stone guy, so running is never been the easiest thing for me to do. But I persevere with running just because I think being as cardio fit as you possibly can be is definitely important. And I do a little bit of weight training as well. Nothing too excessive, and certainly not crazy weights, but just again to kind of like condition the muscles that you're going to be using when you're being towed.
Nice. Out of curiosity, so grip training is a bit of a mission. Like your forearms, they take a bit of a battering when you're paddling anyway. And you look at any sort of long term surfer, and you can sort of spot it a mile off. Big open chest, decent shoulders, and some Popeye level forearms. Um, so I used to do a little bit of strongman training a few years back, and I noticed my paddle power sort of increased a lot because we'd done a lot of grip training. And I remember walking into my trainer's gym, and there was just this like um, shelving unit like you get in your shed, and it just looked like something out of a weird shop, like an adult shop. There's just all these weird and wonderful shapes and toys and that on there. I was like, what do you do outside the training then, Tom? Like, what's going on this shelf? And but it was all for grip training. You got these. You can get what's called fat grips. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they attach to the barbell, the dumbbell, and you get a couple of different sizes. You got the blue and the orange generally. If you go for the branded ones, blues are like that, so probably inch and a half or so across. Then you got the orange ones or red that are a couple of inches. But once they open up and go around the handle of the barbell, you suddenly the normal barbell is like that, so you're twice as thick, almost like grabbing your fist, and then the orange really opens up, and you're almost just using your fingertips. And if you want some training for that, get a set of each of those. And what's nice is you won't be able to text and say you're a horrible, horrible trainer. You're not a nice guy because your thumbs won't be able to work. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Whenever I used to train clients, and their package was 4 sessions a week, so we got to the end of the week and they just didn't really have the energy at the time. Then we'd have like an accessory day, and that's when like the fat grips and the battle ropes and that come out. And yeah, the clients hated Fridays, but it was my last chance to really sort of push them before the weekend. I knew that a lot of the work was going to get undone because they're all sort of under 30 and living for the weekend. But yeah, so they're brilliant bits of kit for really working up your grip strength. Just obviously don't use it within 2 days of going out and using a toe rope because you're probably going to struggle. But
Yeah.
so how often would you say you train per week, or how many like exercise sessions?
So as I'm, being I guess an older athlete, I make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm listening to my body. If I feel like I'm fatigued, then I will. I don't kind of have like a fixed regime. I guess for me, it's just making sure that like if I'm not up for a long run today, then I'll go tomorrow, and I make sure that it happens. So I tend to kind of run. It depends. Like obviously, I've just been away in South Africa, kind of surfing. So when I was out there, I only did one run in the whole month that I was there, but I was surfing every day. Now I'm back to Cornwall. I'm kind of obviously getting myself more prepped for the winter season, which is obviously going to be in about 3 months, I guess it starts. So whilst there's not many waves, I run a couple of times a week. I'll go running, and then I will try and get out on the water, once a week at the weekend. If there's some waves, great, and if there isn't, then just go and do some kind of flat water training. Just kind of practice the rescues. So at the moment, I'm training with a guy called Jules Chenoweth, who's done a couple of seasons in Nazare himself as like a safety driver. So if we're doing like flat water stuff, then I'll just get in the water with a board, and he'll come up and present the rescue sled, and I'll jump on and shout clear and get out of there. So we just kind of repeat the fundamentals a lot, so that it's second nature and muscle memory when you're obviously in the moment. But yeah, so in the water once a week, and then I'll try and do a couple of runs a week. And if I'm in the gym, then obviously I do a bit of weight training as well.
Cool. What would a typical gym session look like for you?
I would normally start off with a run, and then I would just generally kind of go around and do like an all body kind of workout with the weights. So I don't kind of like a bodybuilder would kind of break the muscle groups down and just kind of practice like back and biceps one day and chest and triceps another. For me, if I'm in the gym, I just do like a general kind of conditioning workout, all muscle groups. I'll say, for instance, I'm doing like bicep curls with the dumbbells. I'll do like 3 sets of 10, and then I'll just go and do 3 sets of 10 on a like a bench machine, and just kind of generally just do a little bit of kind of just general conditioning, so that the muscles and the tendons and everything are just kind of being strengthened and used.
Mm. Yeah, nice. And do you maintain any sort of particular diet, or just a bit mindful about what you eat?
I try to be mindful. I think last year, I think that I was fit, but I was probably the on the heavier side that I'd ever been. I think I was concentrating a lot last year on kind of the in water stuff, and during the summer, just like being on the ski and on the rope, and kind of conditioning and learning the kind of. Last year was the first time I actually kind of drove a jet ski in the lineup at Nazare, so I was spending a lot of time in the water. But this year, my plans are to kind of, now I feel like I've got the kind of the skill set. It's kind of, I'm focusing more on my diet this year. It's been, since I come back from holiday, I've downloaded an app where you can kind of put in your foods that you've eaten for the day and calculate your exercise that you've used to. But it's not to be kind of too regimental about it. I think that if your body's screaming out for food, you're probably better off eating. But I think you're just better to be mindful, I think, rather than too
Mm.
intense or compulsive with it.
That's it. I mean, you're in essence you're training for performance rather than sort of calorie counting for weight loss or
Yeah,
bulking up. So yeah, just obviously keeping an eye on what you eat and making sure that it's sort of 90-95% healthy and you're getting the nutrients in there. Um, Out of curiosity, how long do you typically spend down in sort of Nazare through the winter?
So for me, kind of like I've always travelled, and up until COVID, it was I had my 5 weeks annual leave a year, and I would just be away for every single one of those weeks. Since COVID, obviously, we were sent to kind of work from home when COVID happened, and I spent a lot of the kind of COVID times working from the Algarve. So I was kind of in Portugal surfing a lot then. So my first trip to Nazare, I was already in the Algarve, kind of working remotely, and the next year I was there for a month, and the year just gone, I was kind of based here and had just gone down there for two swells. We did like two strike missions this year because obviously Nazare has those kind of monstrous days, but it also has a lot of kind of mid-sized days as well, throughout the winter. So I wanted to kind of surf some of the big stuff this year, so we kind of just concentrated on heading down on the bigger days.
Nice. It's yeah, it's a lovely place over there, and um, yeah, being able to be based down on the Algarve would be ideal. Plenty of swell coming in. Spent a couple of seasons out there coaching. Again, that was before COVID and Brexit. So
Yeah.
better days really, and a lot easier to sort of just spend your time there, not have to worry. Um, so will that be the same again this year? Do you reckon? Just focus on looking at the charts and just going as and when it seems sort of a bit
Yeah,
more.
I think this year nothing's kind of set in stone yet, but I think that the plan would be to kind of go and do 2 3 week trips. I think is going to be the kind of what I would like to do, and I think that that's the plan. It's kind of all in discussion at the moment, but I think we'd kind of like to go down like on a swell so that you know that you're going straight into a good day, and then just kind of stay for 3 weeks afterwards. And the days when the surf's good, I'll surf, and then I'll just work remotely when the days where it's kind of an off day. So
Nice.
yeah, that's the plan for this winter. Obviously, do some kind of like swells here, if, like cribber and stuff's on. But yeah, and a couple of trips to Nazare, and yeah, it should be a good winter.
Out of curiosity, because like I say, I've not really surfed any waves of consequence. I think probably like street lamp level, which again is not a small day, and I wasn't planning on actually being out there for all that long. But what's how could you compare, say, Cribber to Nazare, just from your perspective, out of curiosity?
The cribber's yeah, I mean it is a serious wave. Um, Nazare is just kind of next level, though. I mean, like Cribber is obviously like is a big wave when it's on, and it breaks in front of the rocks, which is its own um, kind of major hazard anyway. But when you're standing on the beach or up at the headland at Nazare on a big day, I mean, it's absolute chaos out there. I mean, it's just waves like
Yeah,
the waves that like, they're breaking in slow motion. They're that big and powerful. Um, Yeah, but the crib is a great kind of training ground as well, to kind of train for somewhere like Nazare.
Yeah, I suppose at least it's a lot more accessible, especially if you are at home, just up the road sort of thing, and you can sort of do it within a day or two, can't you? Just have everything ready to go. Is there anywhere else on the list that you'd like to sort of tick off?
Not in regards to big wave surfing, not really. I mean, for me, when I was younger, my kind of like love really was kind of surf like exploration and kind of heading towards places that were seldomly surfed. So, like I've done 6 or 7 trips to Iceland and surfing kind of remote parts of Iceland. So for many years, that was kind of my real kind of love, I guess, and it still is. But the big wave surfing, really, I think like Nazare's. I mean, certainly like by plane, you're talking a couple of hours, to fly to Lisbon. It's a very easily accessible big wave surf spot from the UK. Um, so yeah, I mean, like obviously there's places in Chile and Mexico that you could go to, but for me, I think that it's kind of tow in a big day at Nazare, and then outside of that, I love being in Indonesia, MadiRaa, and Iceland. They're my kind of other places that I would just love to kind of be if I'm not somewhere like Nazare.
Yeah, yeah, Madeira's definitely on the list. I remember years ago, I watched I think it's a 3D DVD with like Carve or Wavelength about 20 years ago called Jewel of the Atlantic. And it's all
Yeah.
about that Jardim de Mar and how they were putting up, I think it's a flood defense or something, wasn't it? But it completely changed the way the wave broke. Um, was it just, again, I've not really managed to tick that one off the list. What's it like surfing over on Madeira?
Um, a number of the waves have been affected by the sea defences there that they've built. It hasn't like completely finished the waves off, but it's like whereas like I mean I've never surf shod in before the sea defence, but I know that it was like an all tide surf spot, and I know that Tracks magazine in the '90s had voted it the best big wave point break in the world. Now you can only surf Shardim at like dead low tide, and I think you got like a 2 hour window. I've surfed Shardim at dead low, and it was really really good. But yeah, it's a very short window now, and you got other spots all over the island. I won't kind of name them or
Mm.
um,
That's the thing, though,
right.
isn't it? It's an island at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But nice, yeah. Definitely have to get a little trip in there, I think.
Yeah, the one thing that's like, I mean, Madeira is like a really kind of just green, lush, mountainous. It's just a giant rock in the ocean, and yeah. And the one thing I think that's quite nice about it, a lot of the spots are quite quiet, but there is a reason for that. Like if you kind of don't quite, first of all, a lot of the spots need size to kind of work,
Mm.
so it is a big wave spot. If you went there and it was like 3 foot 12 seconds, and you're just not going to be surfing anywhere. It needs some energy to kind of get the waves breaking clear of the boulders.
Okay.
But and if you kind of don't if you think one spot's going to work and you get there and it's not, it's going to be at least a 45 minute to an hour drive to the next spot. So it's a lot of time on the road. But like, yeah, the waves there are great if when you get it right.
Nice. So going back onto sort of the big wave thing, we talked about the fitness. How do you sort of gear yourself up mentally? Obviously, it's quite a serious thing. Things can go wrong, and it can sort of go south quite quickly, especially if you're not prepared. Do you give yourself a pep talk? Do you do regular sort of mindfulness training, anything like that?
I do a little bit of breath work, and but predominantly with my breath work, I kind of try and I guess replicate like a wipeout situation. So I'll hold my breath for a minute and then have like a 10-second breather, and then hold myself breath for a minute again, and just kind of repeat that 3 or 4 times. So you kind of just replicating what would happen on a 3 or 4 wave hold down, because you normally get a couple of breaths in before another wave comes. So Um, yeah, but I think that for me, a big part of the kind of confidence of being in the water is all of the preparation that you've done all throughout the year and the summer. That gives you the kind of confidence that you know that you are cardio fit. You have conditioned all of the muscle groups from being on a tow rope, and I guess a big part of what I do when I'm in the lineup is when you're kind of surfing small waves, you kind of really want like a wave count, and you'll catch a wave and you'll march back out the back, and you'll try and catch another one. When I'm surfing bigger waves, then I'm just trying to kind of keep my heart rate low the whole time, so I never want to be trying to like expend too much energy. And then that way, obviously, if a kind of big wave does land on your head, then you're going to be in a much more kind of relaxed, low heart rate, and that's going to mean you'll be able to hold your breath for a lot longer. But as for kind of preparation on the land, yeah, not necessarily that I kind of give myself a prep talk, but I just kind of try and do all the preparation that needs to be done throughout the summer months and keep it up during the winter, and it just gives you that kind of confidence, I guess. And also, there's a lot of kind of safety kit that we use. So we've got like a impact suit which is full of foam, and that kind of makes you quite buoyant. Anyway, we wear that under the wetsuit, and then like an inflation vest as well, which has got like 4 canisters in the back. So so as soon as you get wiped out from a wave, I pull that canister, that inflates, and at that point I know that I don't need to try and fight to get to the surface. I don't need to struggle. My job at that, like, once I'm inflated, I will come up to the surface when it's ready to let me up. So you just have to kind of zone out, go to a happy place, sat at home watching TV or something, counting sheep, whatever you want to do, but you just kind of zone out and relax, and then when it's time to come up, obviously the safety kit will do its job.
Is there anything is there a go-to thought when you're sort of in that position?
For me, I just try and just zone out, I think, is probably the best way of describing it. When I had that big kind of hold down a couple of seasons ago, when I was already kind of fatigued and out of breath when the wave hit me, I knew at that stage that, like, obviously if I was to kind of panic or kind of be overthinking things, that probably would have had a much harder time with things. So I knew that I just needed to just zone out. So just kind of just completely remove all thoughts. Your eyes are closed anyway underwater, so you just kind of remove all thoughts and just try and wait until a time comes up, and at that point you can start thinking again. But just switch the brain off, relax, and then come up and breathe when the time allows.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine it's I suppose the key is just staying calm, really, isn't it? Like you say, if you can keep that pulse rate that little bit lower, you're going to preserve your oxygen and your energy. Okay, that's interesting. I remember one of the first pieces of advice I ever got told was don't panic in a wipeout. Obviously, we're talking average waves, but just count to 10 and pretty much guarantee by the time you get to 6, you'll be on the surface.
Mm.
And it's very rare that it's ever been worse than that. There was once, I remember starting to sort of climb up the leash a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, where's that board? I want to sort of give it a bit of a bear hug right now. You go past sort of 20, 25 seconds, you're like, wow, this feels like about 10 minutes. But okay, nice. I suppose if you've done your prep throughout the year, then you're going in as confident as you can be. You've ticked it off. You've done the work. So it's sort of time just to let go and enjoy that a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does your quiver look like at the moment? Obviously, we've got the steed in the background there.
Yeah, that's the magic toe board. That was my sponsor, Mangosurfing, helped source the board for us, and it's Dylan Longbottom. It's a Nazare, a specific toe board designed for Nazare, which was made in Portugal, and then basically shipped over here. But it's like a weighted board with lead ball bearings in it to kind of make it deliberately heavy, so that it can kind of like, when obviously you're racing down a wave at super speeds, and all that weight in the board just allows you to kind of plow through all of the chop and just makes the ride a bit more smoother for you. But I think it's 6'1", so it's obviously like a very small board, and it's very narrow as well. And I think it's got something like, it's got a load of carbon fibre in it, and I think it's got something like 10 layers of glass or something silly on it as well, just to kind of make it pretty bomb-proof.
Oh, wow. So
that's the toe board.
Yeah. What would they typically weigh?
So they do make them in kind of weights. So that's a 7.5 kilo board. The kind of like, if people were kind of towing on like a small Nazare, I guess a lot of them kind of use like 5 kilo boards. And then obviously people have like 10 kilo, 15 kilo. And I think that it might even be like 20 kilo boards that some of the kind of guys use on the really big choppy days. But I obviously they're pretty big money as well. So I got a 7.5 kilo board to kind of be like an all rounder, to be able to kind of still surf absolutely fine in kind of like more smaller kind of days, but then to be able to kind of handle bigger days and be manageable as well.
Yeah, nice. You said you've got a 8.0 paddling.
I got an 8.0 and I've got a Tenno as well. So the 8.0 is what I use to kind of travel with, because obviously you start going over that and you just start to have a nightmare with airlines, being able to travel with and stuff. So the 8.0 is my kind of travel board, and the Tenno is, I've taken that in the van down to Nazare, and I've paddled Nazare on the kind of like what I guess you'd class as a small to medium sized day for Nazare. Maybe like 20, 25 foot, that kind of size. Faces is what I paddled that Tenno in. I've paddled the Tenno, is my kind of board for the cribber as well, if I'm paddling the cribber.
Okay, nice. I suppose it allows you to get in that bit earlier, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the waves, when you start kind of surfing bigger waves, they're moving real fast. So you just need a lot of volume. The Tenno is about 4.5 inches thick, I think.
Okay.
Just, impossible to duck dive. Just designed to just kind of paddle and point in a direction and go.
Yeah. That leads me on. Like, I was going to ask, how do you navigate the paddle out if you're going off from the beach?
At Nazare or the cribber?
Well, both, to be honest.
Certainly. So, I mean, the cribbers, obviously you've got two kind of ways in. You can kind of paddle out at Little Fistral, and there is normally a bit of a rip towards the right-hand side that kind of, if you're lucky, you'll just whiz straight out. But sometimes you might kind of end up with a set on the head as you're kind of paddling out. But once you get past Little Fistral, then obviously you've got the whole channel that you can kind of swim by until you get out there. Or alternatively, you can go off the other side of the headland. Nazare is kind of a bit of a difficult one to paddle. When it's kind of smaller, you can kind of, I mean, you use the term smaller loosely, but like when it's kind of smaller, you can kind of like paddle from the beach. But most of the time when people are paddling on the bigger days, they paddle from the South Beach. And they paddle around the headland, because paddling out from the beach is impossible.
Okay.
Or a lot of the kind of guys do is that they kind of leave from the harbour with jet ski assistance, and they'll be paddling Nazare, but they'll also have a ski, like a safety ski with them as well. So if they catch a wave into the inside, the ski will kind of help get them back out the back again. But it depends on your resources. There's obviously kind of people there that are paddling Nazare, and they'll paddle around the headland and they might catch one bomb, and then that's it. They're on the beach and it's all done. Or if you've got access to jet skis, then obviously it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah. Not that I'll be getting my wallet out for that anytime soon, but out of curiosity, how much would it cost for a 2-hour block to have that safety assistance?
So You're looking at around €500 for 2 hours to have like a jet ski tow you in with what's one of the companies in Nazare. Maybe more. It might even be 650 now. Yeah, and it's not like you need to obviously go and have a chat with. It's not like anyone can just kind of book
Yeah.
and go out. You need to kind of when I was there and I wanted to tow, I had to go down to the marina and have a chat with the guys there and kind of demonstrate, I guess, by showing pictures of different waves in different places that I'd surfed, just to kind of get their, I guess, permission to kind of go out with them and tow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. They're putting their lives on the line as well. They don't really want to just have any old sort of kook rock up and be like, "Yeah, I want to go ride big waves, mate. Let's go." It's yeah, a whole different ball game. So, if you had any advice for anyone that's sort of not necessarily going to go into big waves, but sort of stepping out of their comfort zone, and are looking to sort of surf long term, would you have sort of say three nuggets of advice for them?
My first advice would be slow and steady wins the race. There's no rush, and to just kind of gradually increase things, because the last thing you want to do is to kind of have something that knocks your confidence too much. So slow and steady progress is always better than fast. Would be my number one. Number two, the more that you put in, the more that you're going to get back out. So I guess the question with anything is how much do you want it? If you want to be better at surfing and you love surfing, then yeah, obviously put the work in and you'll benefit from it over. Maybe not. You may not see it instantly, but certainly over time you'll see the rewards. And my third bit is just have fun, because that's really what surfing for everyone should be about. I think that sometimes, especially maybe at the kind of higher realms of surfing, whether it might be competitive surfing or big wave surfing, people can get too caught up in the glory or the social aspect of it or the Instagram, but yeah, just have fun. For me, that's what it's about. I love being in the ocean, love surfing, and it's just for me all about having fun.
Yeah, 100%. Most of the population aren't going to be getting paid for it, so you may as well just have a smile on your face and enjoy your hobby, really. No,
Yeah.
100%. So, if anybody wants to sort of follow along on your journey and keep an eye on your surfing through winter, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, my Instagram is andrew.j.douglas. So you can follow us on my Instagram page. My sponsors, mangosurfing, also post my journey as well. So it's worth giving them a follow. And also another thanks to Finisterre as well, who support me as well.
Amazing. Yeah, great company. I don't know much about Mango yet, but yeah, Finisterre, definitely a bunch of legends. Um, well, mate, it's been brilliant having you on. And yeah, maybe catch up in Cornwall, have a little training session at some point. Um, have a little blast on the back of a tow rope. The only time I've really ever done that was on the back of a Zap Cat with no bar, so it was straight off the outboard. And I don't think I had much of a shoulder left after that. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a little go properly.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll link put the links in the description below. And yeah, thanks for coming on, mate, and we'll have another chat some point in the future.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Andrew. Cool. How's that, mate?